for you, I have a tremendous amount of respect for. He has a PhD in finance and in economics. He's having a lot of fun, helping a lot of people, over 25 years experience. And he is on this call tonight to be here to answer your questions with a talk with the finance doctor, your RX for Forex. So without any further ado, I want to turn this call over to Dr. Craig Bythewood. Dr. Bythewood, are you on the call?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much for your introduction, Ms. Dyer. Hope everybody is doing well. Hope you're having a productive Thursday. And as always, a great trading call, great questions, great answers, just a really good dialogue that I think will help to put us in the right position to do the things that we need to do. You know, I mentioned earlier that I teach an entrepreneurship class. And in that class, I talk about the fact that most people have one mindset or the other. They're either visionaries, which means they do a really good job at looking at the big picture, coming up with strategic goals, deciding what they want to do, thinking big. And then other people are integrators, where you are more skilled at being able to figure out the ways to operationalize processes. Step one, step two, step three. And so those two mindsets work together, someone who thinks big and someone who can execute small. And so I always say to my entrepreneurship students that if you're a visionary, make sure you have an integrator on the team. If you're an integrator, make sure you have a visionary on the team. So I am saying all that to say that some of us, or most of us, that take on projects like this, that decide they want to learn foreign exchange, that would join a company like IML, that would jump into an opportunity to enroll and learn and earn, most of us are visionaries. And so it's really good to take a step back and make sure that we know how to integrate the process. So I really applaud Ms. Dyer for coming up with this concept tonight and doing such a great job of integrating the integration. So, a talk with the finance doctor. Let me begin by asking if anyone has any questions, comments, or testimonies. I had a conversation earlier this week with one of my business partners, a business partner that I have a great affinity for, a great amount of respect for, in the way in which this person processes information, and the way in which this person wants to make a better life for themselves. And when we were having this conversation, I mentioned that in this Be Your Own Bank movement, that we've already aligned ourselves with the vision. Be your own bank. That's a vision. It's something that we see. A former pastor of mine used to always say, in order to see it, you have to be it. I'm sorry, in order to be it, you have to see it. And in doing so, we understand that the Be Your Own Bank movement is visionary in its scope. But it occurred to me in having a conversation with this person that there are a few integrative things about being our own bank. There are a few integrative things that banks do that we probably should understand. So what I'd like to do is that until I stop to answer one of your questions, I'd like to share with you an integrative piece on how we can make sure we do what banks do, that we understand what banks understand, that we put ourselves in the best position to respond to the way in which banks do things. So first of all, let me start off by saying this. Every single interest rate in our world, now hear me, this used to be a point that was only specific to America. But as America began to do well economically and people started looking at the dollar as being the creme de la creme of currencies, then many of the other nations began to do what we do. Perfect example of that is I remember in the early 80s when I was a teenager, they were talking about moving to the metric system and making everything be meters instead of inches. And America was the only country that didn't participate. And eventually other countries stopped demanding that everything turn over. And we now have situations where there's half and half. Sometimes it's meters, sometimes it's inches. Of course, it's the 100-meter dash now, and it used to be the 100-yard dash. So all I'm saying is that we as Americans have a great deal of clout. So it used to be that in America, all interest rates, no matter what the situation is, all interest rates are quoted annually. But what I'm saying to you in describing this tangent to my tangent is that now, worldwide, all interest rates are annual. Well, why is that significant? It's significant for a number of reasons, but the main reason why it's significant is because the way in which I teach that we understand mathematical equations, think about how many times math came up in this training tonight. The way in which I describe mathematical situations is I always tell people to look at the math in terms of life. So you really don't have to ask the question of how it works if you think about it logically, you think about the way it works. So do we pay interest rates annually? Of course not. Have you ever taken out a loan and they sent you a statement once a year? No. They send you a statement every month. Or if you're dealing with the IRS and you have a tax bill that is several years behind, they will charge you interest, and they charge that interest daily. If you're receiving money in a savings account, they're going to charge that interest or pay that interest quarterly. So my point is, there are different scenarios where interest rates are calculated in a time period that is different than a year. I just gave you 3 examples: daily, quarterly, and monthly. I could even add every 6 months, because when you invest in a bond and you receive interest payments on the bond, you receive interest every 6 months. So that's 4 different scenarios where the interest that you are charged or received, let me say it again. I gave you 4 different scenarios where the interest that you are charged or received is done so at a time period that's different than a year. However, all interest rates are quoted, they're presented, they're stated in an annual format. Now, I bet you all knew that, but you probably weren't aware of it. And here's how I know that you knew it. What does APR stand for? You don't have to unmute and say it. Just go through this exercise with me. Say it to yourself. What does APR stand for? Yes, I heard many of you say annual percentage rate. And sometimes we're so big in memorizing acronyms that we sometimes don't even think about what they are. Annual percentage rate. And I'll prove that we sometimes memorize acronyms instead of subscribing to the Bythewoodism. If you know what you're doing, you will always have a job. If you know how you're doing it, you will always be the boss. If you know what you're doing, you will always have a job. If you know why you're doing it, you will always be the boss. So sometimes we jobberize ourselves by memorizing acronyms and not thinking about it. And I will give you a perfect example. How many times have you said or heard someone else say, I'm going to the ATM machine? I'd like for you to type in the chat, what does ATM stand for? I'm going to the ATM machine. Can we stop by the ATM machine? Do they have an ATM machine? Please type in the chat what ATM stands for. Yes, this is a participative scenario. Please type in the chat what ATM stands for. So if there's no typing, that means either you're refusing to participate or you don't know. Thank you, Autumn. Automatic teller machine. So if we say ATM machine and the M stands for machine, that means you're saying, take me to the automatic teller machine. So you see my point? We memorize acronyms oftentimes instead of understanding them. But we're about to move into a new paradigm. We're about to be our own bank. We're about to step to 1 million families and say, look what you can do. You can learn how to participate in a $5.3 trillion a day market. So if we're going to do that, we got to come correct. Earlier today, I was at basketball practice with my 8th graders, and my daughter's on the team. So the head coach and myself, we have a really good relationship. His daughter's on the team as well, and we play around a lot. So I went and started messing with his daughter, and he went and started messing with my daughter, and then they started double teaming my daughter, and my daughter said, this ain't what you want. If you're going to step to the Bythewoods, you're going to step correct. And I said, oh, look at my daughter. Look at my little gangster girl, my gangster daughter, my little thug daughter. My point is, she said, if you're going to step to us, you got to come correct. That's what we have to do. If we're going to be our own bank, if we're going to touch 1 million families, if we're going to put ourselves in a position where we walk in the wealth and abundance that we deserve, we're not going to go around saying, take me to the automatic teller machine. So it's not about the acronym. It's not about the mistake. It's about the fact that we have to make ourselves accountable for understanding why things exist the way they are. We have to make ourselves accountable for understanding the wirization of what banks do so that we can do the same thing. Stop. Visualize. In order to be it, you have to see it. 1 million families making an abundant impact on our economy. And then we decide to take this be your own bank movement seriously. And recognizing some of the exploitative ways in which financial institutions operate, we literally become our own bank. And now we can provide capital services to individuals worldwide, but in fairness, but in integrity. So rather than charging 39% like Dell.com or charging 350% like Amscot, we'll treat people who've had some issues with integrity. So if we're going to be our own bank for real, we have to do better than saying automatic teller machine. So all I'm asking you to do is to increase your awareness of how things are. So APR stands for automatic teller machine. I'm sorry. APR stands for annual percentage rate. Annual percentage rate, which means all interest rates are annual, even though all of the calculations are not. What do you mean? Well, remember what I said previously. I gave you examples of daily compounding. By the way, many credit cards are daily compounding if you do not pay the balance off. Quarterly compounding, semi-annual compounding, which is twice a year, monthly compounding, which is the one that is the most common. But yet the interest rate is stated in years. Okay, I hear you, Dr. Bieber. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that, finance doctor? Well, the only thing that's wrong with that is this. Have you ever, I was at the gas station today. While I was pumping my gas, there was a gentleman in a Jeep on the other side of the gas pump, and he obviously was a salesperson. So he was having a conversation with a potential client, and the client kept asking him, well, how much does it cost? And he kept saying, well, I don't give cash prices over the phone. I don't give cash prices over the phone. And the guy kept asking, and no matter what, he just would not answer the question. I don't give cash prices over the phone. So I understand that's salesmanship, because oftentimes when we ask for a price, we ask what's going on, the particular individual that's selling us the product, they want to play games, and they want to be evasive, and they want to be elusive, because the less we know about the ability to be able to know what we're paying, then the more they're able to control us. I say to clients all the time, they're saying it for 25 years, always buy stuff rather than be sold something. Always buy stuff rather than be sold something. So we self-select into what we buy instead of having someone convince us. Remember the debate that we had a couple of weeks ago, the healthy debate that allowed us to go to a depth of understanding retirement plans? If you remember during that debate, I was talking about IRAs versus 401ks. And the individual I had the debate with was talking about what was wrong with 401ks. And I reminded you that IRAs are sold to us, 401ks are not. There's no commission associated with 401k because it's the benefit you get when you work for someone. So since there's no salesperson and there's nobody telling you to buy it, then nobody's going to talk about the benefits of it. So I'm just saying, let's understand the infrastructure below what we do so we can put ourselves in a better position to be our own bank and touch 1 million families walking in excellence. We're better than saying automatic teller machine. Do you have an automatic teller machine? So the APR means annual percentage rate. So just like the salesperson in the Jeep refused to answer the question of how much it really costs, that's what happens with annual percentage rates. Because annual percentage rates are always lower based on the fact that they quote them annually. They quote them, and I could do the math and I could explain it to you, and I could tell you that when you do an annual percentage rate, the calculation is basically taking the monthly or the periodic interest rate and multiplying it by the number of periods per year. But in reality, when you earn or pay compound interest, it's an exponent. So instead of being times 12, it will be to the 12th power. Now, wouldn't you agree without remembering any of the math that to the 12th power is higher than times 12? So what I'm saying to you is that they will tell you a particular rate, but it's always going to be higher because the actual way in which the interest rate is calculated is to the nth power instead of times n. I'm not interested in the math. I'm not interested in you going and figuring it out because you'll never do that in real life. What I'm interested in is you understanding that the infrastructure of the banking industry is set up to tell you a price that's lower than what you're really paying. That's all I'm saying. So every single interest rate that you know right now, every single interest rate you're paying on mortgages and loans and car loans and anything, student loans, they're all lower than they really are. When I used to aggressively go to companies and seminars and teach this, I used to write on the board, an APR is an LIE. It is. It is a lot. So again, my point is only that as individuals who are going to be our own banks, we need to understand the infrastructure. Interest rates are annual, even though the calculation of them are not. So every single interest rate you've ever been quoted, you've ever heard, is actually lower. So how about I give you just a mathematical representation to walk away with some meat on these bones of understanding. The average credit card interest rate, when I first started teaching this, was 18.9%. If you have a credit card that has 18.9%, the actual rate that you're paying, the true rate, the accurate rate, the higher rate is really about 21%. So they're telling you 18.9, it's really 21. Now you may think, well, that doesn't really make that big of a difference. That's not a lot. How about I share this with you? If you have a credit card and you put $2,000 on that credit card, and that credit card has an 18.9% APR, and every single month you pay off the minimum, you pay the minimum payment. Every single month you pay the minimum payment on an 18.9% credit card with $2,000 balance on it. Balance means that's how much you pay. If you make the minimum payment every single month, this is how long it will take you to pay it off. Some of us are visual learners, so I'll answer this with a visualization. This is how long it will take you to pay off that $2,000 if you make the minimum payment every single month. 22 years. It will take you 22 years to pay it off, and by the time you pay that credit card off, you've given that credit card company $10,000. So basically what you're doing is borrowing $2,000 and then you're giving them an $8,000 tip. Now hear me. The reason why I'm saying this is to increase our awareness, to make you understand. Because I used to do that example all the time in classrooms for clients, financial planning type of seminars. But that was then. Today, the average credit card interest rate is 29.9%. So that means that example that I just gave you is even bigger. Were you aware that the nation's first $1 trillion industry, so this is the first industry ever in the United States of America to reach the $1 trillion mark. Now, we don't care about that now because we're operating in 5.3 trillion. But I'm just saying, the first $1 trillion industry was credit cards. Credit cards were literally the first $1 trillion industry. So when I say these examples sometimes, people listen to me and say, oh, Dr. B said, don't mess with credit cards. So let me give you an analogy to paint a picture of how I really feel. I know you've heard me say it. A week from today, we will not have a talk with the finance doctor because my daughter's graduating from high school. And I remember distinctly when my daughter was in kindergarten and I taught Vacation Bible School. Actually, she was in preschool. And so when I taught Vacation Bible School, I had 33 preschoolers. I loved little kids. It was really, people were like, oh, how did you do that? I loved it. Had a great time. One of the best weeks of my life hanging out with 33 preschoolers. I still talk to many of these preschoolers. Well, I know what my strength is. I can deal with kids. I can make them laugh. I can discipline them. I can do all of that. However, it's really not my strong suit to do arts and crafts. So when it was time to do arts and crafts, I walked in the room with my 33 preschoolers and I said to the ladies who were handling the arts and crafts, look, y'all just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Give me a simple job. They said, okay, Dr. B, you take this glue and you go to each one of these crafts and you just squeeze a drop of glue on each craft. I said, okay, I can do that. I can handle that. So I got the glue and I squeezed the glue on each craft. And I just went around the room squeezing the glue. As I was squeezing the glue on each one of these crafts on my preschool daughter and her classmates, who is now about to graduate from high school, no, I'm not going to get emotional. As I kept squeezing the glue, something occurred to me. I'm a deep thinker sometimes. As I'm squeezing the glue, I said to myself, you know what? There are people who sniff glue to get high. And I realized in that moment, I'm not anti-glue. I'm pro using glue in the right way. I'm not anti-glue. I'm pro using glue in the right way. That's how I feel about credit cards. I'm not anti-credit card. I'm pro using credit cards in the right way. I'm pro understanding that if I pay that minimum payment every single month, then I'm giving them $8,000. I'm pro understanding the game, understanding I just want the price, but you want to keep telling me you don't give cash prices. You're going to have to come get with, you're going to have to come see me, and then I can give you the price. You know how I feel about that. That means I'll just call somebody that'll give me the price. So sometimes we let these infrastructures and these salespersons and these financial institutions control us because we don't take the time to think about what the M stands for. So we can say automatic teller machine instead of automatic teller machine machine. So I said all that to say this. When I am putting myself in a position where I understand the way these concepts work, here's something that I can use in my favor. Interest rates are what make you pay $8,000 over a 22-year period for a $2,000 loan. So let me ask this rhetorical question. I see that all the mics are muted, and that's okay. But let me ask this rhetorical question. The rhetorical question is, if you have a particular interest rate and it's high, it's a high interest rate. I'll get to my point. I got another tangent for you. I went to Walmart today and I went to buy an item and there was no price on it. So I could have just gone to the cashier and bought it, but I said, no, I need to know what the price is. So I went to one of the Walmart people. Oh, why'd I do that? You know how that is. They have like one Walmart person for every 13 aisles. So I finally found a Walmart person and said, can you tell me the price on this? They got their little button, they looked at it, and they told me the price. They did a price check and they told me the price. And then I decided whether to buy it or not. If I had $1, if I had a pip for every time I'm doing a financial plan for someone and I say to them, what is your interest rate on your credit card? And they say, let me find out. So why would we refuse to buy something at Walmart without a price? But yet we would buy money at very high prices and never even ask. Just get the credit card, pay the minimum payment, and never ask how much we're paying. And I know that there's some rectangles that I'm looking at right now where individuals have credit cards right now, which is fine, but you don't know how much you're paying. You don't know what the interest rate is. So now, based on that, thank you, Tasha M. Dyer. Based on that, let me ask this. What is 29.9% times 0? Exactly, 0. So it's not about not having a credit card. It's about understanding how to use it in the right way. I remember being 26 years old, having a PhD, and I wanted to build my reputation as being able to be a financial planner and give people advice and guidance. And I remember that I would challenge myself because, quite frankly, everything I learned up to that point had been in a book. It was theoretical. It was an article. So I wanted to make sure that I was able to give value when I had conversations. And so one of the things I did was I prayed about what are some things I could give to companies that would add value? How can I help small businesses to do better with my financial planning expertise? And one of the things that came to me was this. And it's a practice that I've been talking about and doing since then. Business owner, you have a certain amount of money that you have to spend in a given 30-day period. So what you want to do, business owner, is get a credit card. Get the credit card and take that 30 days worth of information or purchases and put it on the credit card. In fact, the way in which I give the advice is to use a charge card. What is a charge card? A charge card is just like a credit card, except there is no minimum payment. You have to pay it off every month. So if you know you have to pay it off every month, it creates an internal infrastructure where you're going to only put items on there you know you're going to pay. There is no minimum balance to tease you. So I would tell the small business owners to put all of your expenses on this 30-day charge card. Then after the 30 days, you'll get a bill. And the bill says, hey, you owe us this money in 30 days. So if I'm spending for 30 days and then I owe it 30 days later, that means I can take that money I would have been spending and put it into an account and earn interest. So my money is earning interest for 60 days before I spend it. Whereas everybody else who's using debit cards, their money stays in their account for 60 seconds, and it's gone. We're spending the same amount of money, but we're strategically finding a way to do it in a way where we can be our own banks. That's what banks do. Just today, I paid off a credit card. And when I paid off the credit card, it wouldn't let me do it because I'd made a payment within 5 days. Isn't that funny? They won't let me make a payment on my account within 5 days. They're deterrents for me to pay. Why? So they can make the $8,000. So in order for me to pay online, I had to call. They wouldn't let me pay because I already paid. So I called and said, hey, I'd like to pay it. So they said, well, what account? Are you going to use your bank account? And since they asked it like that, I said, yes. Then I remembered who I was talking to. I remembered that we want to be our own bank. I remembered that just like glue, I'm not anti-bank, but I'm pro-household. So I stopped and said, what are the implications of me paying with the bank, with my bank account? And they said, we don't give cash prices over the phone. I said, can you please answer my question, kind sir? And he said, well, if you use your account, if you use your debit card, then it'll go in right away. But if you use your bank account, we have to verify the funds and you won't be able to have access for 14 days. Come on. You really mean to tell me that the banks need 14 days to guarantee the money if it's in my bank, but it can be right away when it's a debit card? What they're doing is they're creating an infrastructure where it benefits them at our expense. So all I'm saying is that by being our own bank, we can come up with strategic ways to maximize what we do and put ourselves in a position where we can do the same thing they do. I'm not mad at banks because of what they do. I'm just glad that they taught us some strategies that we can use on our way to being our own bank, to understanding the value of acronyms, to knowing how interest rates are set up, to touch 1 million families so that we can put ourselves where we deserve to be in terms of wealth, abundance, and awareness. Thank you very much for your attention tonight. I will now turn this call back over to our host and or hostesses.
Wow, wow, wow. When you know what you know, when you learn what you don't know. So this was a very, very good call. And ladies and gentlemen, this is why we do what we do. You are learning how to be financially empowered as a whole. That is what this is all about. You're learning a new skill set, but yet you're taking your financial education to another level with this talk with the finance doctor. Your RX for Forex. I'm excited because where do we go from here? We go up, we rise, we go higher. And on June the 15th, Orlando, Florida, we are having the Trade Expo, Orlando Trade Expo. Make sure you are in the place. BYOBchallenge.net. July the 20th, Leadership and Development Conference. Leadership and Development, BYOBchallenge.net. You want to make sure you're registered. Get registered and get registered today, tonight, before you go to bed. I promise this is not something you want to miss. You want to be in the place. You want to go to the next level. You want to reach those million families. You want to take this to the next dimension. You definitely want to be there July the 20th. So ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, I'm excited. I'm excited for what this call is. I'm excited for what this movement is doing. I'm excited about the education. I'm excited about the power of the unmuted mic. And you all just do something like we did this week. Don't stop, but make sure you're doing something iometically, just same way the finance doctor told us. So we always want to be rising above and rising to the next level. Ladies and gentlemen, you have a wonderful and blessed evening. And on Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, our leadership call. You want to make sure if you are building distribution centers, ATMs, not machines, ATMs, you want to make sure that you are on that call. Same link. You all have a wonderful and blessed evening, and this will officially conclude this call.